The movie begins on a remote island in Thailand, where some researchers resume experiments with dinosaurs. Now, with a new species created from the mixing of various DNAs and extremely dangerous, the dinosaur is called D-Rex. Some team members prepare for the daily check of the D-Rex. One of them makes a fatal mistake while eating a chocolate bar and, when opening the door, accidentally drops the wrapper. The man enters the room unaware that the plastic slipped into the opening. The researcher seems reluctant to visit the D-Rex. As he enters, the wrapper falls into a crack in the door, causing a massive failure. The computers trigger alerts, but no one notices, and the entire system restarts. Soon, all the technicians working on site receive a warning that the containment cage is open. Panic takes over the environment. Everyone inside the D-Rex cage begins to flee, but the man who made the mistake cannot escape. His colleague has no choice but to watch her coworker being killed by the newly genetically modified creature. In another location, amidst the chaotic traffic of New York, we see Martin Krebs stuck in a jam caused by a Brachiosaurus. Martin returns to his car and is surprised by Zora, a specialist in covert operations, who presents him with her plan. Martin explains that he needs to collect dinosaur DNA samples to create a medicine that will make a fortune for both of them. Zora initially refuses, as she lost a close friend on her last mission, but Martin, being a good negotiator, offers a substantial sum of money, and she soon accepts. They then meet Dr. Henry, who will also participate in the mission. At the museum, Henry explains that they need to collect DNA from aquatic, terrestrial, and avian dinosaurs. Martin reveals that the only way to produce the drug is with living blood and tissue samples from the dinosaurs. Zora is surprised, as she did not expect this difficulty and realizes that the mission will be much riskier than she imagined. Nevertheless, she has already accepted the challenge and does not question it. Martin warns that they need to hurry, as their competitor, Mr. Parker, does not tolerate being in second place. Martin informs Dr. Henry that he will also go on the mission, which shocks Henry, as it was not part of the agreement, but being crazy about dinosaurs, he soon agrees. They head north to Thailand, where we meet Captain Duncan, who will lead the team on the mission. Martin introduces himself, and Duncan reveals that he intends to back out of the mission, only doing it out of friendship for Zora. Duncan asserts that the mission is dangerous, and the money is not worth the risk. Zora makes a counteroffer, asking for a raise in the offer for Duncan. Martin reluctantly agrees, and Duncan begins the work. Another team member introduces himself. It's Bobby. Martin asks why he is on the mission, and Duncan replies that Bobby will ensure they do not become dinosaur food. They set off to sea. The first hunt will be the Mosasaurus. Martin reveals that before escaping the park, his company obtained the tracking code of the creature and shows on the radar that it is close to them. Zora asks why the dinosaurs live so close to the equator, and Dr. Henry explains that this region is special because the climate, vegetation, and overall environment are very similar to what existed 60 million years ago, creating perfect conditions for them to survive there. While Martin explains the plan to capture the Mosasaurus sample, Bobby fiddles with his weapons, and Henry sees a vial in his hand. Henry asks what that is, and Bobby, with an ironic tone, replies that it's neurotoxins. Henry does not like this idea and asks if there is no other way. Bobby says that is for their own survival, and Zora adds that they cannot choose between their lives and those of the animals. Henry then states that the intent is not to harm the animals, and Duncan asserts that night will soon fall, and they will try in the morning, which is less risky. Duncan asks how the extraction works, and soon Henry shows the group how it functions. The extraction material works like a rocket. Before being launched, it sucks up the blood, ejects it into the air, and opens a parachute. Henry, all excited, says he will shoot. Zora then shows the situation he will have to face to extract blood from the Mosasaurus, and soon the man backs out. A few hours later, nearby, there is a group of people sailing on a boat. Among them are Reuben and his two daughters, Isabella and her sister Teresa, along with boyfriend Xavier. Reuben asks his son-in-law to take the mast, as he is tired, but Xavier complains that he is also exhausted and does not want to take on that role. Teresa, trying to avoid a quarrel, says she will take the shift herself, but her father disagrees and states that he is tired of that situation. Xavier goes back inside to sleep while the family stays outside. Teresa soon spots something approaching and alerts the others. While observing, something passes under the boat, and Reuben asks his youngest daughter to take control. He looks at the side of the vessel and warns his daughters that something large has struck the hull, and soon a new impact capsizes the boat. Reuben and his daughters manage to jump in time, but Teresa's lazy boyfriend keeps on sleeping. Teresa asks her father to save the guy. Xavier says he is stuck and cannot open the door. Reuben tells him to look for the rescue radio. The girls manage to get on the boat while calling for their father. Xavier manages to break down the door, but when he gets out, he is hit by the mast. Reuben soon comes back to the surface. Xavier also appears, and behind him is the Mosasaurus, which almost catches him. The creature dives again and swims away. Back with the group, Reuben calls for help on the radio, but the other team member, Barry, does not hear the call. Duncan soon wakes him with a slight start. Barry says he is going to urinate, and Duncan stays in the cabin when he hears the distress call. Duncan immediately alerts the group about the rescue. Bobby firmly opposes it, but Zora wants to help, and Martin also disagrees. Duncan gives new instructions to Nina. Returning to Reuben and his family, he spots Duncan's boat and lights a flare. They are rescued and explain that they were attacked by a Mosasaurus, and Zora wonders why it would attack a boat. Henry believes the animal may have seen the vessel as a threat and tried to defend its territory. Martin wants to continue with the plan and does not intend to turn back or leave Reuben's family in a safe place, even with the man's requests. Martin asks to check the tracking again, and they discover that the Mosasaurus is now hunting the group, which makes Reuben anxious. Soon, the creature attacks the boat as the team prepares to extract its blood. Martin explains to Reuben and his daughters that the procedure will take only a few seconds. Suddenly, the Mosasaurus leaps alongside the vessel. Henry is impressed by the beauty of the creature, and Zora positions herself to make the shot, asking Henry to hold her at the railing. He quickly does so and warns that she needs to be 10 meters away for it to work. Duncan takes control of the boat and approaches the animal. Just as they are about to reach the ideal distance, the Mosasaurus dives and returns quickly, and the waves rocking the boat make Zora lose control and accidentally fire the dart. Zora asks Henry to fetch another dart, and he soon heads to retrieve it. Meanwhile, the Mosasaurus is approaching the boat. Henry quickly returns with the dart, but the creature jumps beside the vessel, causing Zora to fall, and the Mosasaurus tries to swallow her. Henry manages to help her in time, and Zora then makes her accurate shot, successfully extracting the animal's blood, which quickly returns to the depths of the sea. Henry takes the capsule and congratulates Zora on the great shot, while everyone in the group celebrates the victory. In a private moment, Henry tells Zora that they should not give the DNA of the animals to Martin, as if they make the medicine on their own, they can help many people. But Zora does not agree with Henry's objectives. Even though she thinks the plan is noble, she prefers to stick to the original proposal. While Reuben's family recovers, Teresa spots some fins in the water and warns the rest of the group. Zora goes out to check, and Henry, seeing the scene, warns that they are Spinosaurus, adding that these creatures help the Mosasaurus hunt and kill. Bobby does not see this as a problem and soon goes out with his weapon loaded with neurotoxins. As Bobby is shooting, Duncan tries to warn him of the danger. Suddenly, Bobby is attacked by a Spinosaurus and dragged right in front of little Isabella, who is terrified. But there is no time to mourn, as the Mosasaurus soon appears and initiates another attack. Nina, who was on the boat's mast, is thrown off but manages to hold on, almost being devoured by a Spinosaurus. Little Isabella slips and gets to the edge of the boat. Reuben runs to help her and ends up injuring his leg in the process, but manages to save his daughter before the Spinosaurus attacks. Duncan starts the boat, then begins heading toward the shallow waters of the island, saying that the Mosasaurus cannot swim there, making it their best option. Reuben and his family put on life jackets, and he asks Teresa to send the coordinates to the rescue team. Martin, seeing that his plan may fail, quickly goes after Teresa. She calls him crazy and pushes him, but ends up falling too, hanging over the edge of the boat. Teresa begs for help, but Martin does not lift a finger. She soon falls into the water, and Xavier, seeing this, does not think twice and jumps in to save her. Reuben warns his youngest daughter that they should go to sea, as soon the boat will collide. Then, they jump into the water. The Mosasaurus attacks the boat again. Zora and Henry are almost thrown out but manage to escape. However, the creature continues pressing until the boat collides with a rock, and Zora and Henry are nearly hit by the falling stones, barely saving themselves. With the boat badly damaged, Duncan tells Zora to jump, as they are now safe in shallow waters. He cheers, but his joy is short-lived, as the boat is soon dragged to the island. Meanwhile, Teresa and her boyfriend manage to save themselves and swim to shore. Teresa warns that Martin let her fall from the boat, and soon Reuben finds the two. On the island's shore, Martin tries to rest, but Henry soon warns them to keep running, as the Spinosaurus can walk on solid ground, and he also notices a huge footprint on the ground. While Nina drags the supplies to solid ground, she does not notice the presence of another Spinosaurus that is very near her. The animal returns to the water, but soon comes back and brutally attacks the woman, who is dragged down. Duncan watches helplessly as his companion is killed, and everyone is shaken by the loss of their friends. Meanwhile, Reuben's family continues searching for the village that Martin mentioned. Back with the group, Martin begins to say that those creatures are anomalies, and Zora questions what exists on that island. Martin does not want to talk about it, but under a lot of pressure, he reveals that this island was used for crossbreeding some species. Henry says that this could go very wrong, and Martin replies that the old owners of the place discovered it the hard way. Martin says that these creatures were left on this island, and Zora states that they do not have time to lose and that she has a plan B. Zora then begins to explain her plan, saying that she hired a rescue company to monitor the radio frequency of their boat. She says they need to remain silent for 24 hours. They will do a flyover at sunset on Monday and will be able to return home. Martin says that is tomorrow already, and Zora explains that in her plan, there is a set of villages in the southwest mountain range with a helipad. She says they are going to wait for exactly 2 minutes and then leave. Barry asks why they cannot wait longer, to which Duncan responds that the pilots also want to live. They have no time even to breathe, as they soon hear a fierce roar and run deeper into the jungle. Reuben and his family find the geothermal energy pipes. He and his family decide to follow the pipes until they find this supposed village and try to find a radio to call for rescue. Zora's group is after the next sample, and she hopes Reuben's family finds the village. Henry warns that the herd of titanosaurs is in the Central Valley, and they may catch up with them by dawn. Zora pressures Martin to know how Teresa fell from the railing. He asks what she is implying and decides not to answer. As the group decides to stop and rest a bit, Martin is distracted listening to what Dr. Henry is saying when a snake almost attacks him, and Zora comments that one never knows when it will be the last day. Reuben asks his family to find branches to clear the way, and little Isabella ends up finding a baby dinosaur. Her father reassures her, saying that it is small and only eats plants. Teresa soon scares the dinosaur away. Xavier, as careless as ever, tries to clear a path, making a lot of noise. They realize that something is nearby, and they decide to change their route. Back with Zora's group, Martin stops and takes some water, and ends up finding 2 dog tags. When he looks up, he sees a helicopter. He finds a corpse holding a weapon and decides to stay behind to grab it while his group moves ahead. For the first time, Xavier does something helpful and tells Reuben to rest with the girls. He decides to move away to keep watch. Meanwhile, that baby dinosaur approaches the family, and Isabella, this time, is not afraid of her new friend. It soon lies down next to her to sleep. Xavier is going further to relieve himself and does not notice some raptors approaching. When he is about to be devoured, a pterosaur appears out of nowhere and fiercely attacks the raptor. The boy hears everything without looking back. Soon, the pterosaur takes the raptor away, and the other flees. The next day, the group is about to hunt the titanosaurs. Zora is relieved when Henry says they only eat plants, but soon after he says their predators do not. Duncan asks everyone to be quiet, and Zora takes the lead. Soon they find the titanosaurs that were hidden in the foliage. Henry, as a dinosaur fanatic, goes ahead. Zora follows closely and says he likes adrenaline, and the man responds that this is the perfect time for them to get the DNA. Zora questions why, but does not need to. Henry responds that the titanosaurs are a couple and are about to mate. Henry approaches the animal and pets it, even starting to cry while Zora prepares to shoot. She soon does so, and the capsule is ejected. Henry, seeing all those dinosaurs, nearly has a heart attack from so much joy. Now, with 2 samples in hand, only one remains, which is right ahead of them. Reuben and his family continue on until they find the village, and Reuben has a bit of difficulty walking due to his leg. He and Teresa are worried because Isabella is bringing that baby dinosaur with them. Isabella decides to name it Dolores. While Xavier talks to his girlfriend without looking back, he ends up falling off a cliff, and everyone falls along with him, including Dolores. Dolores gets nervous and runs away from that place. They wonder what is wrong with her. They smell something strong and find a small boat on the other side of the river. Teresa offers to go get it while Xavier takes care of their father. Upon reaching the other side, she finds the carcass of a dead dinosaur and sees a Dilophosaurus that was feeding on the remains. But it also senses a strange presence and decides to flee. When Teresa looks aside, she finds a huge Tyrannosaurus Rex that is sleeping. Her family tells her to return quietly. Inside the storage, Teresa finds a raft and drags it to the water. She opens the raft in front of the T-Rex, which disappears into the foliage, but then reappears to drink some water. The family boards the raft, but soon the T-Rex notices them and begins to chase them. They row without stopping as the fierce animal submerges in the river over the family, and then emerges in front of them and violently overturns the raft. The Titanosaur attempts to attack Ruben but fails to kill him, and the family is swept away by the current. They miss little Isabella, who is holding onto the raft, when the T-Rex attacks her ferociously. Everyone thinks it is the end for the girl when she appears swimming towards them, with the T-Rex right behind her, almost managing to swallow her, but she is saved by two rocks. The T-Rex swims away, and suddenly the lifeboat appears in front of them. Everyone cheers and laughs at the situation. Back with Zora's group, they are on the edge of a cliff to capture the last sample of the pterodactyl. Henry warns the group that this time will be a bit different since they will not be able to collect directly from the pterodactyl, which is always flying and the size of a jet. The safest and quickest way will be to extract the material from an egg. Barry goes ahead, and Zora asks if the doctor is okay. He replies that he is, but we realize he is dying of fear while Duncan assures him it is safe. Duncan gets distracted by a baby dinosaur, finds a passage, and tries to signal Martin, but this almost costs Henry his life. The rope slips, nearly killing him. Zora tells him not to worry, but when they hear the pterodactyl's noise, they speed up the process. Soon they arrive at the pterodactyl's nest, and Henry begins to extract material from the egg. Zora asks about the previous plan, and whether he really wants to continue with it. He replies that yes, it was just to release the code of how to make the medicine. That way, no one would own the patent. Everyone would be able to consume the medicine, and many lives would be saved. Zora jokes that in this scenario, she won't make any money, and Henry insists she will be totally broke. She just laughs. Barry is outside hammering in some nails when he is surprised by a pterodactyl. The man tries to warn, but the creature enters the nest. It tries to attack Henry, who dodges it and hides behind some rocks. Zora distracts the creature towards herself, and Barry also tries to lure the animal, which soon starts chasing him. He asks Duncan to pull him, and the man quickly does so with Martin's help. Henry is dragged by the rope too, and the vial with the DNA almost tumbles down the cliff. Luckily, Zora manages to hold the rope at the last moment. Barry manages to reach the top, but the creature arrives too and ends up devouring him. The pterodactyl's focus now turns to Duncan and Martin. They manage to escape into the passage Duncan had found earlier. Meanwhile, Henry tries to grab the vial that is on the cliff's edge. Zora warns that the rope is going to break, and just after that it really does snap. The capsule with the sample is ejected. Henry, who was hanging by, a thread on a rock, ends up falling down, but luckily lands in a river. Soon, his team reaches him through the secret passage, and the capsule lands in front of him. Now, with all the DNAs complete, they decide to go back home. Ruben and his family are sailing along the river following the pipes to try to find the village, until they reach the old research laboratory and find the place completely destroyed. Duncan spots the helipad and says it is in the middle of the reservoir. He comments that there is no sign of Ruben's family. Zora finds some footprints and starts shouting the family's names, while Martin, afraid of being found out, tries to stop her from searching for them. Martin says the helicopter could arrive at any moment, and Zora replies that they can still do a quick search of the area. Martin says that this is very dangerous, but Zora retorts that no one asked him anything and grabs the case with the DNAs. Soon, they manage to find each other, and Teresa quickly looks for Martin, saying he let her fall off the boat to die. Martin appears, and Teresa tries to confront him, but the group stops her, saying it is dangerous as he is armed. Martin lies, saying he tried to get her, but Teresa counters that he is lying. Zora then asks if he is telling the truth and what the reason is for being armed. He then cuffs the case with the DNAs to his wrist and tells everyone to relax, claiming they just have to wait for the helicopter to arrive. While everyone talks, Isabella asks everyone to be quiet. They begin to hear a grotesque noise coming from the forest. Henry says it could be the generator. Suddenly, they hear a fierce roar. The place's lights turn on and music starts to play. 2 dinosaurs appear, and everyone has to scatter. Teresa and her family find shelter in an empty supermarket, while Duncan and Henry hide in the old breeding laboratory. Zora, outside, fights to survive until Martin appears to help her, shooting at the creature but missing all the shots. Inside the market, Issa finds Dolores and runs to her, but the dinosaur is already entering through the ceiling. The girl quickly hides in a fridge, and the creature stares at her until her father throws something to distract it. Issa comes out of the fridge and runs to her family. They find a drain and decide to escape through there, but the creature finds them again. Still, they manage to escape. Inside the laboratory, Duncan and Henry see the helicopter approaching. Duncan asks Henry to get the pilot's attention while he goes to get the kids. When Henry is about to do that, he hears the D-Rex approaching. Soon they discover why that place was abandoned. He sees that monstrous creature passing by and decides to run. Meanwhile, outside, the pilots are searching for the survivors, but it is difficult to demonstrate a sign of life with those dinosaurs around. Until Martin grabs the car keys and decides to turn it on, thus revealing Zora's hiding spot, which has to run into the woods. The dinosaur is about to find Zora, but it hears Ruben and his family in the tunnels and decides to go after them. Zora, seeing this, quickly follows. The pilots decide to end the search, and as they are leaving, Henry steps outside and activates a flare. The pilots soon make a U-turn, but Henry barely knows the danger that is behind him. He tries to warn the pilots not to come, but it is too late. From the mist emerges the D-Rex, chewing the aircraft in its mouth, then destroying it and the pilots. Duncan soon finds Ruben's family and runs to help them, but Henry arrives too and shows concern about that new dinosaur. Everyone enters the tunnels, and Duncan says that these tunnels lead to the sea and tells them there is a dock with a boat hanging there that they can use. Meanwhile, Martin is going crazy, driving around in the car, making a lot of noise, almost colliding with a dinosaur. Zora is searching for her group, but soon finds them, and the dinosaur is with them too. She quickly shoots at the creature while they take the opportunity to flee. She manages to kill one, but soon another appears. Duncan warns Zora that they need to hurry. Otherwise, Martin will also steal the boat. Soon they find the exit, but with a large gate, and try to pass through the spaces, but cannot. The only one who can is Issa, who soon does so. She runs to the machine to release the gate. When the D-Rex appears, Issa manages to open the gate, but the group is surrounded by another dinosaur. Suddenly, Martin appears in the Jeep at high speed and collides with the D-Rex, which halts the car with just one paw. The group takes advantage of the distraction to escape, and Zora manages to close the gate before the other dinosaur can get out. Martin is captured by the D-Rex and swallowed alive. Zora takes advantage of the fact that the case is on the ground, grabs it, and runs with the rest of the group to the boat. The winch is jammed, and while they try to free it, the D-Rex appears again and tries to attack Issa. But Duncan warns that it is attracted to light and quickly turns on a flare to draw the creature's attention to himself. Zora tries to help him, but he only asks her to save the kids. He draws the D-Rex away, while the rest of the group takes the boat to leave. Zora calls out to him, but it's useless as the colossal creature stands in front of Duncan, ready to kill him. Soon, the D-Rex reappears, but they manage to escape with the boat. Zora calls for her friend, and everyone makes a sad expression, but suddenly a flare is launched into the air. Realizing that Duncan survived, they head towards him and manage to save him. They then set off for home, and Zora asks Henry who they will give the samples to, and he tells her that she decides. She decides to give the cure to the people. Henry is happy with her choice, and everyone celebrates their victory. Thus, the movie ends.